Welcome again to Camp Chapters. We are going to continue our reading of The Secret Life of Amanda K. Woods. I realized I didn't give you a very good shot of the cover last time, so here you go. We are on chapter 3 now, and just to recap real quick, we had Lyle, Amanda's best friend, left, and we are kind of getting a picture of Amanda's life in a nutshell. So let's step right into chapter 3. It's called The Rome Hotel. Amanda was delving into her and Margaret's closet, pulling out wrinkled blouses that needed ironing and skirts that would have to be lengthened by her mother. It was too bad because Lincoln School in Rome, where Amanda would once again be going, was not worth the trouble. Amanda had always wanted to go to school out in the country, at the one-room schoolhouse near Lost Lake, where the farm kids went, but she could never go. Like Lyle's parents, her parents always made her go to school in Rome. They thought that in a bigger school with a different teacher for each grade, she would get a better education. The other kids who went to Lincoln School in Rome had all grown up in the same neighborhoods, playing together. Amanda never saw them outside school, and she had never really felt like one of them. For her, the only good thing in Rome was the Rome Hotel. When he was a young man, Amanda's father had inherited this hotel from his father. It was a cheerful-looking building of weathered red bricks, the tallest building in town. People walking along Main Street always raised their hands and their heads to see the hotel's round tower with a belt of stars in stucco under the window and a weather vane on the top. Amanda figured that everybody was probably proud that Rome had a building so tall. The hotel was like a second home to Amanda. From when she was little, she had known the clerks at the registration desk, the cleaning ladies and the waitresses, the bartenders, and Charlie, the cook. She liked them all, but Charlie was her favorite. Now that she was older, she did her homework at the hotel every afternoon, waiting for her dad to finish work and drive back to Lost Lake. The Rome Hotel was not the only hotel in Rome, and it had been popular with travelers for a long time. However, it had become a worry to her dad. When 3 motels were built on the edge of town, cutting into his business, her dad had gotten a big bank loan and spent a lot of money remodeling. Now the hotel was attracting many travelers again because it wasn't just nice, it was unique. Besides having new carpeting and wallpaper and lights, it had become almost a museum for the history of Rome. In the halls, the dining room, and the lobby, her dad had hung historic pictures of Wisconsin, portraits of the Indians who had once roamed all of its forests, but who hardly left their reservations now. Photographs of the loggers who cut down the forest, standing proudly by enormous logs, pictures of sledges loaded with logs being pulled by teams of oxen with steaming breath, and portraits of the farm families that settled around Rome after all the timber was gone. The dining room of the Rome Hotel was called the Loggers' Inn. On its walls hung kerosene lamps like those used in old logging camps, and logging tools rested on low shelves beside descriptions of how they had been used. There was a long 2-man saw with handles on both ends, huge tongs that had clamped on logs so horses could pull them, cant hooks for rolling logs, and snowball hammers for knocking the snow out from under horses' hooves. Near the hotel's reception desk, a branding hammer with the letters KS on its head sat on top of a huge slice of an old log. The same letters were driven deep into the end of the log. Amanda's father had explained to her how in the spring, when the ice on the river melted, loggers had moved thousands and thousands of logs belonging to different companies downriver. The brands hammered into the ends of the logs had made it possible to see whose logs were whose. In the bar next to the restaurant hung a big horn called a gabriel. It had been used in a logging camp to call the men to dinner. Nowadays, when somebody blew it in the Rome Hotel bar, it meant he would buy drinks for everybody. An old player piano her father had found at an auction was in there too. Rolls of paper with holes in them made by the player piano's keys strike as if they were being hammered by a ghost. The piano played old songs you never heard on the radio. It only cost 10 cents to play it. And in the summer, when vacationers came through Rome, they had it going all the time. To Amanda, being in the hotel after it had been remodeled was like breathing the air of another time. But it might have been completely different, because at first Amanda's mother and dad had disagreed about how to redesign it. Amanda's mother said the dining room would look like a barn with all those tools in it. Her father said nobody knew what a barn looked like anymore, so that was probably a good thing. Amanda's mother said she thought the hotel would do better if the whole building was done over in the style of the great Wisconsin architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, who was a genius. Her dad agreed that Frank Lloyd Wright was a genius, but he said that if they were to redo the Rome Hotel in his style, they would have to tear down the whole building and begin again from the ground up. Besides, he said, nobody ever got anywhere by copying a genius. What had surprised Amanda most about the argument was first, that her father had argued at all, and second, that her mother had lost. Coming up on chapter 4 here, to Rome. The family station wagon bumped down the dirt road from Lost Lake to the highway. Amanda sat gingerly on the leather seat, looking down at her well-shined Oxfords, missing her cowboy boots. She sat straight, trying to avoid wrinkling her white blouse and her red plaid skirt. She felt like a carefully wrapped present that somebody had to deliver in perfect condition. The somebody, of course, was her father, who was wearing a business suit, a blue and white tie, a Homburg hat, and a frown. Trees, then farms with big white farmhouses slid by the car window. At the side of the road, farm kids carried metal lunchboxes and walked together toward their one-room country school. Amanda waved at a boy and a girl. She didn't know them, but they still waved back. Someday Amanda would be like Margaret and ride the school bus into Rome for high school with the other country kids. Then she would get to know them, but that was a long time off. Lyle had gone to Franklin School in Rome near the lumber yard where his dad worked. In the old days, they had ridden into town together. She wondered about Lyle starting school in Montana. It couldn't be any worse than Lincoln School, where she had no friends. Amanda looked at her dad. He had taught her everything in life that really counted. How to ride a horse, how to shoot a gun, how to fish, how to swim and dive, and water ski. But he was hard to talk to. When you were a kid, did you have a lot of friends? Amanda asked. No, he said. Amanda couldn't believe it. Everybody must have loved him always. She had looked into his high school yearbook once, where a girl named Emily had written, "George, you are the best dancer." Everybody, not just Emily, must have liked him. She was almost angry at him that he said it wasn't true. Why didn't you have any friends? We lived in the country, maybe that's why. It's a long time back, Amanda. I really don't remember much. He sounded bored and impatient. How could a person forget his own life, Amanda thought, but she said nothing. They passed the red cedar cheese factory with its shiny aluminum roof. It marked the halfway point to Rome. Her dad looked at his watch and speeded up. The night before, Amanda and her dad had taken their boat out on Lost Lake to fish. She had felt very close to him. A new moon had appeared like a second boat, bright yellow, floating in the darkening sky. On the lake, the tangled smells of dark and water, of green and damp, had tugged at them. Birds had rustled in the willows, settling down to sleep. And farther off, out of sight, as if it were searching everywhere for someone, an owl demanded harshly, "Who? Who? Who?" If I knew, I would tell you, Amanda had thought. Amanda had caught 2 northern pike, bringing them in just right. Her dad had been proud of her. He didn't think the way Amanda's mother did, that Amanda always got things wrong. She had thought of a line from a book. "We are of one blood, he and I." Being of one blood meant more than being father and daughter, or mother and daughter, or sisters. It meant being the same kind of people. She and her dad, she thought, were the same kind of people. But now Amanda felt as if Lost Lake had evaporated, and there was not a drop of it left, or a drop of the closeness with her father. She looked at his face. From the side, it looked like the face of a coin, handsome, but hard and unmoving. They got to the sign that marked the entry to Rome, Wisconsin, Pop 6594. And her dad slowed up, but looked at his watch again. I don't want you late on the very first day of school, he said. Amanda didn't answer. He would be angry if she said she would just as soon be late on the first day and the second day and every day. And she didn't have anything else to say. Besides, she knew her dad didn't want to talk. Same blood or not. That was the way he always was. And that is the end of chapter 4. And I have a few questions for you here. So, for these chapters, have your parents taught you something, like Amanda's dad taught her how to fish and how to ride a horse? Have you taught them something? I'd be interested to know. Is there anyone that you feel is so similar to you that you would consider them of one blood? I'd be interested. And did you feel like you could picture the hotel in chapter 3? Could you imagine being a logger or being a guest at that hotel and how that would feel? Thank you again to Scholastic for letting me read this book. And thank you to all of you for reading it with me and listening to it. I hope to see you soon. And I can't wait for our next couple of chapters. It's starting to get pretty good, I think. So, until next time, I hope you're well. Stay safe.